Hi everyone, I'm Ryan from 2 Car Pros, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to service your throttle body housing and throttle plate for an 02 Ford F-150 with the 4.6 liter V8. This is a very simple, easy repair that you should always do around every 40,000 miles. You can probably wait longer than that if you want to. Just 40,000 miles is a pretty good service interval. So what ends up happening is a ton of air comes through the system and your air filter can't filter it all out. So what's called coking develops on the throttle housing. There are little impurities in the air and they can cause all kinds of problems, and they can even have a delayed throttle response. So when you finish this repair, you can expect to have a better throttle response. And it does fix some trouble codes, although I don't think on this model, due to the fact it has a regular drive-by cable and not drive-by wire like on a more modern automobile. But regardless, it's a repair that everybody should do. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take the negative battery terminal cable off whenever we are working on anything electrical in the truck. It's an 8mm. That. We'll put that in such a way that it can't reconnect and cause sparks. Alright, so what we're going to do is unplug the mass airflow sensor, because when we're moving this boot around, we don't want this to rip out accidentally. Just like that, and put it aside. So the next thing you're going to do is remove the air intake boot. It is an 8mm bolt, and we can get that out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is remove the cover for the throttle body. It is 4 10mm bolts. 2 on this side and 2 on the other. Actually, there's only 1 on the other side, because why not? And that just removes. Alright, we're going to loosen that hose clamp with our 8mm. Just like that. Okay, so then we're going to pull off the 2 tubes here on the boot. Or we can do it that way. That way works too. That way seems easier. And then we can remove the intake tube. Okay, the next thing we need to do is remove this electrical connector here. You just pinch the sides in like this and remove it straight back, pulling on the housing and not the cables. Now we can move on to dealing with the throttle cables. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is remove the 2 throttle cables here and the return spring. So this one's pretty easy. You just pull it backward toward the cab, and it moves off like that. The next one's pretty easy as well. You actuate the throttle forward like this and slide the cable out just like that. And then the return spring is easy as well. It's all easy. You just maneuver it to the left here, and fish it out like that. And now we can remove the bolts. Okay, so the 4 bolts that hold the throttle housing to the intake manifold are 8mm, and wow, really. I recommend spraying WD-40 on them if they're all gross like these ones are. And I definitely recommend doing the bottom ones first, so the throttle housing doesn't fall on you or fall off its positioning when you're trying to get them. It's just easier to do the bottom ones first. And just like that, our throttle housing can come free. So we have our throttle housing here on my workbench. We can see that it has developed some grossness here. That grossness is referred to as coking. So as air is forced past this, it develops. This is actually probably the worst buildup I've ever seen on these throttle plates here, because your air filter can't remove all the impurities out of the air, so what's called coking develops. So basically, how to cure this and clean this off, and everybody should do this at least every once in a while. We're going to get some carburetor spray, spray that on there, and wipe it off. See how much progress I've already made doing it one time. So you're going to clean both sides of the throttle plate and all around inside the housing, and then we can put it back on. And then we're also going to clean this mating surface here where it actually attaches to the intake manifold. So you can see it's developed some grossness on there too. I think this is actually a gasket. Oh, it is. Okay, so we're going to need to replace that later, but this gasket is in good shape. If this gasket is not in good shape, you need to order one and put one in, but this one looks fine. It's going right back in, and we need to clean that off and make sure it looks brand new when we're done. And this is what it should look like when you're done cleaning. It looks very good. It is basically brand new. Looks awesome. The mating surface is nice and clean. We can replace our gasket here and go put it back on the truck. Alright, with our gasket installed and one of our bolts in the housing like this, we can go ahead and reinstall. I have the top right bolt installed, and now I'm going to align the gasket and the lower left bolt into the intake manifold. Just like that. We got to make sure the gasket is in its proper configuration, which it totally is, so we can tighten everything up and put the other two bolts in. Actually, we're going to put the other two bolts in and then tighten everything up. And when you're tightening, always go in a cross pattern. The torque specification is on screen. Now when reinstalling our throttle cables here, let's do this braided one first. So it's just the reverse of the removal. You gotta have it like this and slid in just like that. Very easy. And then this needs to move forward a smidge, and then it's on just like that. Okay, and then we're gonna reattach the throttle return spring just like that, and you are all done with that. Okay, and then we're going to re-plug in our electrical connector here for the throttle, and it just goes straight on. No fuss. Okay, and then we're going to put the intake back on, exact way we removed it here. Just like that, and do not forget to plug in the random tubes that go into it. Plug in the crankcase tube on the bottom, and this idler air control module, I think. Right here, plug that back in. There we go. And then we can tighten our intake. That's on pretty tight. Okay, then we need to plug in the sensor here, like that. Snaps in place. Like that. You can loosen the hose clamp on the left side of the housing here if it is not cooperating with you or sliding in correctly. Like this. You want those nice and married before you introduce this, and this needs to go around the entire brim of the housing, the filter housing, like this, and then it clamps together like that. It doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to retighten our hose clamp here, and then we can replace our throttle housing cover that really makes this engine look so pretty. And those are 10mm bolts. I do not have a torque spec. I'm not going to look one up. Just tight enough's fine. It's holding plastic to metal. Don't Hulk tight it on. And there's two on this side, and one on the far side you can't see. But I have confidence in you to find it. I really do. I believe in you. And finally, we need to replace the negative battery terminal cable. Before we do anything, we're going to touch the negative battery terminal cable to there to make sure there's no sparks, and there's not. If you're wondering what the goo is, that's dielectric grease. You can put that on if you want to. Kind of inhibits corrosion a little bit, but if I'm honest, this battery needs a replacement, which we will get to. So that was how to service your throttle body housing. It's pretty simple and straightforward. If you like this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I know a lot of people watch this type of thing because they find interest in it, which is super cool. So do I. That's why I make these videos. And subscribing would be an awesome way for you to show your support for me and my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.